Hi, welcome. Marina here, and I'm so happy that you're here on my Late Bloomer to Life channel, where I get to share my experience coming out later in life and figuring out who I am, what I love, and what I'm passionate about. So, welcome to our second in my series of our Late Bloomer to Life panels, chats that I have had on my TikTok page while hosting lives. I am really excited about this one. I feel like at this point, we had worked out most of the kinks, and I started getting a little bit more comfortable in connecting with my guests. So, our guests this week were Alora from Alora Late Again and Jill from Ask Queer Abby. Yes, she's a return guest. I was really excited that she agreed to do this again. I hope you enjoyed the chat. It's about to start. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure to subscribe, like for more, and there will be a lot more coming. I have 3 more that I need to post, and I'm hosting another one coming soon. So stick around.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes!
Let's work with the lighting we have here. Hold on, because we've got some
Oh, well, we've
lighting.
been doing the lighting. I think it looks great. You don't need to worry about the lighting.
I am a very vain person, so we are going to work with the lighting.
I was gonna say your hair's fabulous. Show that off.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Hi.
Hey, it worked out. Thank you so much for doing all the struggle of finding new headphones and all the things. And
But such is my life. It's all good.
Hello. We were just chatting. I don't know if you could hear us chatting.
I have no clue what y'all were talking about. So, yeah, we could. If you have a conversation starter, I would be happy to jump on it.
Well, welcome. Take a breath. I know you were probably running around. Yeah, just take a breath. First of all, I want to know. I was talking about with my girlfriend. What is the proper way of saying your name?
It's Alora.
Alora.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Alora. Mm-hmm.
Great. That was the first one. I was like, that's the first one I need to get out of there because I don't want to mess it up. So Alora. Yeah. Great. No, so we were just chatting I think yesterday when we started having these conversations for the people that are kind of joining, if they don't follow all 3 of us, just give them thank you, writing this and that, go write. She's a writer too, by the way, Jill.
I'm a writer too.
I did see. We gotta connect that. Yeah. So for people that don't know all 3 of us, just kind of give a quick your 1-minute TikTok spiel of who you are, right? Like, what is your page about? What is your thing? We're all late bloomers.
I'm accidentally a TikTok creator. Apparently, I just came here on here, just not being 45 and not really getting what this TikTok thing was all about. And I really didn't get it until the algorithm got me. And then all of a sudden I found myself in late life lesbian TikTok, which I had already come out. So I know that there are stories of people who discovered lesbian TikTok and then came out. I had been out for about 2 years by the time I started TikTok. So I was really seeking community at that point. I also was in the process of kind of self-diagnosing as ADHD, and then got my official ADHD diagnosis, and now I'm working on adapting to that. And then so my TikTok page is very much about that late in life journey of wow, I just discovered 2 years ago that I'm gay, and I also discovered that I'm neurodivergent. How do we adapt to that? And what are the changes that happen in our lives, and how do we think about ourselves anew? And then the other thing that I'm coming to late in life, but I think a lot of us are coming to it late in life, is deconstructing my own whiteness and understanding how privilege has played into my life and how I can wield my privilege and help uplift those who don't have privilege at all the various intersections. And so that's pretty much me in terms of where my background. I am professionally, I'm a writer. I don't write about these issues. I work in the tech and marketing world, but that means I also get how content works. Nice. I'm a mom of 2 young boys, and that is also kind of part of my creator point of view is like as a mom, as a queer mom, as a mom who's deconstructing her whiteness and doesn't want her boys to be perpetuating oppression, those type of things. So that's what I'm about.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah.
And thanks for being here.
Cheers.
Jill, there are a lot of new people here that were not here yesterday. So
Yeah, it's awesome. I want to say I'm like similar, but not nearly as cool as everything she just said. But yes, I am. So I came out at 38. I am a mom of two as well. We homeschooled for quite a while, and my kids are actually going to regular school in the fall. So, what else? My friend diagnosed me as ADHD. I haven't gone for the official diagnosis, but my train derails an awful lot, and I'm really kind of exploring more of what that means. And, but yeah, I identify as lesbian. I am in a long distance relationship with an absolutely wonderful human. And what else? I have a book coming out next April for Lesbian Visibility Week. I also blog at queerabby.com. And then got into TikTok just because I really wanted to kind of find my people. And I totally have, and it's absolutely wonderful.
Amazing.
And, I thought this platform was all about, dance moves and dumpster fires. And there really is like so much more to learn from it. And so I think it's awesome. I love finding great people here. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I remember during the pandemic. No, sorry. Go ahead.
No, well, three-way. This is the ADHD thing, by the way. Is I will talk over you.
We're just going to interrupt each other all day.
Hold on. Let's wait for other kids in the class to talk, okay? So that was the profound realization for me when it came to TikTok. Was like I'm not alone. And when I was dealing, especially with a pandemic, the most isolated possible situation you could be in, and the fact that because I had recently separated from my spouse, I had lost all of my straight friends to the divorce. They didn't, we didn't have that many to begin with because we moved all over the place. But then once we separated, they didn't get it, and they were like, really? What's going on here? That's weird. So finding other people that are in that same place and seeking that type of community has been, it's been literally life-saving for me at some points.
So how long ago did you separate? I missed that part. Sorry.
I separated in 2019.
Okay.
So that was before the pandemic. And then I moved into my own place, and there's a whole long story there that we're not going to go into, but let's just say I didn't really get a chance to connect with my local community before the pandemic hit in terms of queer community, in terms of local latent life lesbians. So my main community for latent life lesbianhood was through a Facebook group that I met my first queer partner through, and we aren't going to go into that, but there was U-hauling involved, and now that's done. And now I'm dating. I'm exploring the dating apps, which is a whole other interesting chapter of my life.
Okay, I mean, we can go ahead and talk about dating. I feel like that flows into that conversation. If we want to go for that, we can touch a little bit about that's just because that's one of the questions I get a lot in my page. And I don't know if you get that too, Laura. We talked about a little bit about that, Jill, yesterday. But I get so many questions about what it's like, for us, especially later in life, right? Like most of us haven't dated in over 20 years. And then on top of it, we add, oh, sure, let's go now add to the stress of it, date a woman, which we have never done. So how has that been? What are some of the, ups and downs of it? Any advice? Those are throwing all of those questions at us.
Did you meet your long distance partner through a dating app or?
Oh, of course we did. But she wasn't the first woman I dated. I was really lucky that I had a friend of mine. We had been friends for about a decade, who was a lesbian. And it just so happened that when I came out, she had also was newly single. And so that was like, it was like lesbianing with training wheels on, because I felt entirely comfortable with her. She was willing to be patient and say, do this and don't do that. And, kind of like get me a little bit more looped into what queer culture in our area was like. It was an awful relationship. I mean, we're great friends, but that does not make for a good relationship. And so I just brushed aside the red flags. Like, no, it'll all work out. We'll be on the same page eventually. Finally was like, this doesn't serve either of us anymore. So hopped on the dating apps. I used the app Her. Got ghosted like crazy.
I've never heard of that.
Because we're all freaking cowards is what it is. We're like, I'm going to like it, but I'm not going to say hi or anything.
Right.
Or I'm not going to say hi back.
Oh my God.
Why would you say hi to me on a dating app?
Right. So the number of people who would connect, and then I'd be like, hey, how you doing today? No response. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? I don't like, pardon me, but I thought this was the point. So I was so, I tried going on some dates. I was stood up a bunch of times, and finally I was like, you know what, Jill, it's not the time. So I was hitting the delete button on my Her app, and Jen's face popped up, and it said she was only 17 miles away. And I was like, just delete. And I swiped to the next picture though, because I couldn't. Curiosity killed me. She's wearing a Buffalo Bills hat, and I'm from Buffalo, and I was like, it's my soulmate, of course, because that's what we all do too. Yeah. So swiped right on that quickly, and she swiped back, and we got to talking, and I quickly learned that she does not live 17 miles away. She was just in town for a conference.
Of course.
We went on one date, and then she went home 936.3 miles away. But like I said, it's been over 2 years. We make it work. We're fortunate that we are both business owners and have the flexibility that we can travel. So I spend about a week up in Pennsylvania, and she spends about a week in Florida, and a lot of FaceTiming.
Man,
so
that's crazy. Thanks for sharing all that.
Long story. I don't even remember what the question was.
Well,
okay, Laura.
I was just dating. Did you meet them on a dating app? So we might need to go back to that long distance thing in a second, because my U-Haul situation was very much involved with that. And me, Minnesota, my partner in Florida. So I've recently, in the past few months, gone on the dating apps, and I did start back in the winter last year. Went on a couple of dates, didn't feel connected with them. Decided, I don't want to go. I just don't want to go through the effort of pursuing a partner at that point. I actually put a tech video that went quite well. That was basically like, I just want to do low effort dating. I was just in my bed, no makeup, just, bleh. I was like, if this is your thing, go ahead, hit me up. But I am not going to be, balls in your court. I am not chasing that ball. And quite a few people did.
I was going to say, I bet people were like, fuck yeah. I love sweatpants and Thai food and not doing anything. So
there was a brief exchange there that went nowhere. But anyway, so yes, Her was my go-to one.
I had no idea that there was a dating app for women only, by the way. So
there's a couple.
That's a whole new world.
There's a couple. I had no idea. Her and Lex, and I don't know if there's anything else. I don't like Lex. It's a little bit more thirst trappy than Her. And Her also has catfishing issues too. But what was I going to say? Okay, so Her happened. I put up a profile, and I matched with the person that I was dating until today. And it was one of those things where we messaged each other for a little bit. She fell off the radar, and I was like, all right, whatever. But then she got back in touch with me and gave me her number so we could text each other. We texted for a bit. Again, she fell off the radar because she was in the process of moving out from she's a late lifer. So she was moving out from her spouse. And I was like, you do you, I'm going to do my thing, whatever, no expectations. And she happened to message me after like going to a lesbian wedding, and she was, I guess, aflame with queer happiness, and reached out to me again. and we like spent the entire day texting and made a date. And then that weekend, I got called to Maryland, which is where I'm from, because my mother was seriously ill with COVID.
I saw those, yeah.
And so I, like, for a good, I think 2.5 weeks, was in the process of that, while also like, okay, I need a hit of serotonin and dopamine here while going through the hellscape of my life. And also, you know, news cycle. So I'm just going to go ahead and chat with people on dating apps just to like have some kind of connection with human beings. And this woman at the time, we were texting. And finally we went on our date, and it was like this, like, because after my mom died and I came back and we were like, let's just do this. There was like this immediate chemistry, and it was exciting and whirlwind type of thing. And it was a little over a month, and we've seen each other like 4 times in the past month while texting almost every day. And it just, her life is, you know, she's just finding her footing.
Yeah.
You know,
we remember how that goes.
She's in the messy middle right now, you know? And I, of course, was mourning my mother. And also I happened to be on this break from my kids because they're with their dad and their grandmother in a different state. So I'm like alone and in grief. And I'm like, hi, person that gives me wonderful chemistry and hormones. And she's like, I've got this going on here. So it just was unfortunate timing. It was a mismatch of energy, and I have to let her go. And it sucks. And I was a freaking mess yesterday, and I'm less of a mess today. But it's part of the whole thing, you know? But in terms of dating apps.
Yeah. I was just saying, now you're here with us, and you know, everything's great.
And I just set up a Hinge account because I have to move on, you know, and I wasn't even looking for a long-term partner. I was just looking to have fun and enjoy somebody, you know? Yeah. And that's, I think, the key for dating apps is, I don't know how great a dating app would be. And Jill, maybe because it sounds like you're more in it, you know, for saying I'm looking for my person, right? I'm looking for my one and only. Or if it would just, for me, I see dating apps as just, let's just have a little starter, you know, let's have an amuse-bouche and decide if we want to try the entire meal. You know?
I will say I was that person with the dating app. I didn't know my coming out was literally in conversation with my therapist after, you know, 2 years or so of being out of my marriage and been dating men. I just kind of threw my hands up in the air. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I'm just not made to be in a relationship. I don't want a man in my house. Like I just don't want it. And then the therapist going, well, maybe it's not about the men. Maybe it's about the gender. And I'm like, wait, what? And then, you know, I say this so many times on my page, is just this whole idea. I truly, truly believed that every woman every woman out there was attracted to a woman. Like I thought it was just a thing that we all did. I didn't know that straight women didn't actually feel feelings for, you know, other women. So it blew my mind. Yeah.
I have thoughts about that too, but no. I feel like,
so then I went, you know, to like, because I go all in things. I literally just Hinge and Bumble. Like I literally just went and flipped the switch on those 2 apps because I was on them for men, and I had great experience with meeting men in those apps, and I met amazing men, and like I'm one of those lucky ones. I know that did not have any like bad dating really, you know, experiences with men or with women on it. But I just flipped it to women, and one weekend I went on like 3 dates with women because I was like, I just need to know. So I was that person that wasn't a dating app to just be like, what's going on here? Like, am I am I gay? Like, is this a thing?
I think that's a completely valid way of exploring that.
And then I did,
but
find
I think
the
it's
person,
also
though.
important for you to. It's important to, at least from my point of view now, as somebody who is out, and I see people expressing curiosity on dating apps. I think it is wise to make sure that that is clearly communicated.
Oh yeah.
Because, and maybe there, I don't know who's in your audience right now, but there could be some straight women that people who think that they're straight who might be exploring this. It's kind of invalidating, right? To be like, I'm just testing the waters here to see if I'm gay, and I'm using you as my litmus test. That feels pretty disrespectful.
There's this funny joke about my first date with my current girlfriend that, the love of my life that I met on dating apps. But on our first date, literally, we maybe were like together for like 20 minutes. I tell her, I was like, oh, just as a heads up, I'm a project. And she's like, excuse me? And I'm like, and I just kind of lay out the baggage. I was like, I just came out. I tried figuring this out. I was in a married, blah, blah, blah. She goes, let's just work on that delivery. She's like, baby, don't tell people you're a project.
I'm an arts and crafts box of fun and glitter.
There you go.
I mean, we're all works in progress. So,
there you go. I mean, she took it on, right? A year later, we're very happy together, but yes. So one thing I wanted to point out just for everyone here, if you have questions, and Jill is really good at paying attention to those, I'm a little like, but if you have any questions, please put them down for us. We are just kind of here sharing, chatting about our experiences blooming later in life. So and I don't know if I've seen any questions yet. I think there are a lot of agreeing. I've seen a lot of like, yes, I agree, me too. So,
and there were a handful just about dating apps. I think there was one that was like, do you need to use dating apps? And we talked a little bit about this yesterday, and so we're all parents here. And I think that was one of the challenges for me when I first came out of like, how am I going to meet people? And I asked my lesbian friends, and they were like, oh, you'll just meet people in your day-to-day life. And I'm like, I am a homeschooling mom. Like,
and I've worked from home.
I am not finding my person at our co-op classes. But so dating apps, honestly, like I tried doing meetup.com where they would just have group activities. And that was a great way to get involved in the community. I volunteered with our local Pride events. And again, great way to meet people. The problem with that is you don't know who is looking to date or not. And so that was why dating apps, as much as I had so much resistance to them at first, I was like, it just makes sense. Like it's hard enough to identify.
Sorry, Charlie decided he wanted to join the live as well.
Totally fine.
We have an Amazon delivery.
Charlie sounds like a good guard dog.
He do protect.
Yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, so dating apps, I was like, well, it just makes sense because I'm looking for people who are open and available to date. And I was just getting tired of, my initial plan was just to try and collect lesbians on Instagram. Like if you were a lesbian, if I saw any sort of rainbow in your profile, I was like, we're friends.
Yeah, that's me on TikTok.
Right. But that's not necessarily your dating pool. And so
there's no invitation there.
Right.
Like with dating apps, it's an invitation to
Absolutely.
Connect. And it's like people are on the same page. They're, some people are looking for long-term relationships and some people are looking for hookups. So but you're communicating that, you're broadcasting that.
Right.
So it does feel very direct and straightforward. And that might not be everybody's cup of tea because it's freaking scary to be direct and straightforward. And so like I said, I met my first queer partner was through a late in life lesbian Facebook group, right? And it was one of those scenarios where we crossed paths in the group and then we decided to friend each other. And they just had this brilliant personality, and it was clear that we shared the same values, and their meme and GIF game was
That's
And
so good.
No, if you've got a good gift game, yeah, you're on my list. So yeah, I mean, that was, we were in an environment where we obviously had something in common. We were on a same point in our journey, or a similar point. They were a little bit ahead of me, and that was actually did become a problem. And then because we connected through Facebook, we shared values, blah, 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 blah. So, but unfortunately they were in Florida and I was in Minnesota, and then we decided to do lockdown together. And that was not a good idea. Not a good idea. Don't U-Haul with your partner during a pandemic. Just don't do it.
I'm going to hope that's not an option again.
I was going to say, hopefully that never happens again.
Right? Not a pandemic option.
Yeah,
Monkeypox is happening. I'm just saying.
Hilarious. Well, not hilarious that you're experiencing, but kind of hilarious.
So in terms of that question about dating, is dating apps required? No, but it is a very quick venue to go from point A to point B if you're looking to find romantic partnership.
Right.
I'm right now, even though yes, I'm on the dating apps because might as well at this point, and it's fun. My goal right now is to connect with a community and to build a friend group. I'm not joking. I want to find my golden girls. I'm looking for my found family that we will have our little cheesecake around the kitchen table chats. And we will, no matter who we're dating, be able to come together and have each other's backs. I freaking need that right now. I need my squad. So that's what I'm looking for. And that's where I'm finding it on TikTok.
Great.
Because I'm finding my people.
Where do we apply for that?
So application accepted, my friend.
Yay!
Here's a cheesecake.
Yes, definitely. I completely agree. Like once the coming out and being part of this community, which has been so welcoming, but there's this okay, so now I am 40. I know who I am. It took me 40 years, but I got it. I feel comfortable with who I am. I am here for it, welcoming the grays, all the things. Now I'm where are my people? Because yes, there are, a few that have come along from previous life, right? But there definitely was some filtering or reading down, I guess, that has to happen when, and some of them did it themselves. And some of them I had to do where I was just kind of this is, not working for me because this is who I am. And I understand that it's a change, but if you can't accept me for who I am now, I got to go find my people.
It does get exhausting trying to educate folks that are not they don't get it because they're straight, and they don't, and also trying to, there is a cultural divide sometimes once you're in the world, the queer world, when it comes to addressing certain issues, hey, I am a vulnerable member of the community right now. And you are not stepping in to help me out. Those type of conversations are tough to have with your straight friends. If you're fortunate to have staunch allies in your friend group to begin with, good on you. I surround myself with progressives big time. But there is, a lot of folks are coming from communities that are not, and that's scary and lonely. So yeah, that's why we need a squad.
I'm all for it. Jill, have you seen any questions that I missed or anything? You're so good at that.
No, not so much coming through. We just have a handful of late bloomers here, which is awesome, and they're all chatting about where they are across the U.S. of A.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't think we've said that. And Alora, you mentioned that you're in Minnesota, right? I'm in the Boston area, so East Coast, and then Jill.
Yeah, I'm in Tampa Bay, Florida. in
Are we
the heart
all-
of
no.
some exciting politics right now.
Well,
Oh
yeah,
my
like I was
God.
saying. Yeah, and actually, my ex-partner is not only, well, now they came out as non-binary trans, and they have a trans child, so they're very vulnerable at this point.
Yeah. And I think that's, to your last point about friends and understanding. Like, I've been super lucky that Tampa Bay in general is very progressive. And so my friend group, my homeschooling group, went to, I know homeschooling has a very religious feel to it, but we went to a secular co-op. So everyone who was there was very progressive. And so it was great that most of my friends stuck with me in the coming out process and are allies and super supportive. But even still, I could see there was an interesting switch for some of them that now that I've become part of kind of like a marginalized group or a minority group, a group whose rights are being challenged.
Oh no.
They're feeling more of that with Roe vs. Wade. But for a long time, it was like, really, is it that bad? It just seems like you're kind of exaggerating.
Well, you guys got, you can, marriage is legal, so what's the big deal?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And in fairness, I was that person years ago that was like, well, I thought when it was federally legal, it was like, oh, great, equal rights. That's great. Because that was my realm. That was my sphere of knowledge. And that was who was around me at the time. And now I'm like, holy crap, we still have a lot of work to do. And that was before Ron DeSantis stepped in here. So,
and it's, I'm seeing that in my, Facebook group, let's just say LBL Facebook group. They're talking about should with their partners, maybe we should get married now before, if they annul the marriage, maybe that's something we should do now. But they're
I'm
still
so
early in their journeys that it's like, well, wait a second, marriage is marriage, regardless of whether or not it's legal. Right. It's still.
Oh no, we lost Alora. Can you see? Oh, there you go.
Still here?
Okay, good. Yep. You went out for a second.
Sorry, my battery power is low. So,
same.
Yeah.
Oh, because it happened to you too. Okay, because the both of you had the little flash of darkness for a whole second. I saw a question about if everybody was here was newly lesbian. Well, we've always been lesbians, but we're newly queer.
But I would never admit it.
Newly queer. We're just newly realizing and awakening to that. And
I know. Well, my girlfriend is here. She's our moderator, and whoever asked that, I can tell you that she has been out her. I think she was. I don't want to tell her story, but she's been out most of her life as a teenager. So she's not a late bloomer like us. And I don't know who else is here, but I think she answered too when that question came up.
I think our moderator we need to look at the comments.
she's working down there. She's at my dining room table, just the next room.
I just saw something kind of rude. That's all.
So one question that comes up on my page often too, since we don't have any other questions here, and I don't know if you guys had this question a lot, but it's in terms about relationship with your ex, your kids, dad, and some of, however it is, just asking about how is that, and if you want to share however much you want to share that it's your experience, because I know for a lot of women, moms that are, currently married and are starting to have these thoughts, thinking about the kids, right? And then thinking about how will the partner, the current partner deal with it later. So any thoughts on your experience with all of that?
I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to pass the mic to Jill.
Sure. So when I first came out to my ex-husband, he had probably one of the most beautiful and compassionate responses I ever could have imagined. And I said, you know, I'm gay. I'm so sorry. And the first thing he said to me was, that must have been so hard. Which really took me aback. And so when we were going through the process and we really took our time on things and kind of explored our options, because we had a great friendship. We had a great relationship. We were together almost 20 years, trying to figure out, how do we make this work? Can we still stay together? And at the end of the day, we realized, though, that it didn't feel fair to either of us to remain as a married couple and in a romantic relationship where I could never reciprocate the love that he was giving to me. Like there was no fixing that. We both deserve to be loved fully and to give our love fully to another person. So we did decide to divorce. We didn't even use lawyers. We had a friend who just kind of mediated and helped with the paperwork. And so everything was very smooth for a while. And I think that's because we decided early on too that our goal was just to create as much stability for the kids as possible. Like, and as much as we would bicker over certain small things and details, and there are things obviously we would get upset at each other about. And it was hard when both of us were then dating other people. We kept the kids as our focus and trying to make sure that any decision we were making was in their best interest at the end of the day. So anyways, I would love to say that we still have our friendship. Unfortunately, we don't at this point. When it gets into the details of money and, you know, like I said, we ran a small business together. I gave him the business because I had a lot of feelings around guilt and what I was taking from his life. And so I said, you keep the business, I'll figure out something to do. So I started my copywriting business. And then
That's what I used to do too.
Yeah, I did copywriting. I write for different corporations, and and the thing is like one of the benefits of coming out and living so authentically is I feel like I can pour myself fully into so many aspects of my life. And so my writing business has been really successful, and I've been really lucky with a lot of opportunities that have come my way since coming out. And unfortunately, you know, owning a bar then during a pandemic, like he hasn't been in the same position. And so I almost feel it was like adding insult to injury for him, unfortunately. So our friendship's not what it used to be, but we still do co-parent peacefully. We show up for their events. We communicate with each other. It's just the friendship is gone, and that's really hard.
Yeah, my situation is very similar. My ex-husband wasn't quite as compassionate in his response to my coming out to him. It was more kind of invalidating, like, oh, well, are you sure? Are you, you know, why don't you get, you know, we could open it up. And at that point I was like, but I don't think that you would be very happy, based on what I know about your values, if I were to be with women. And he was like, well, maybe you're just bi, right? And then I'm like, well, if I'm bi, then if we open up the marriage, I would, you know, there would be a whole bunch of other dynamics there, right? And then he also comes from a conservative background. And so he has his opinions. And even though he was like, I have a gay brother, and he was supportive and, you know, never had an issue with them being gay, he also has his ideas about why people are gay, right? And so there was that going into it. But we also ultimately understand that regardless of our relationship, we are still each other's family because we have children together. And we owe it to our children to create a family of stability and ongoing unconditional support and, you know, attachment and all of those things, because I am a survivor of abuse, and I refuse to continue that cycle. So in terms of co-parenting, we have a 50-50 co-parenting thing. We have kept our kids at the same school, regardless of like where I was living. He was the anchor parent for that school district. So we didn't have we didn't own a house. We were just renting, but he has stayed in the same rental for the past 5 years now, 4 years. While I, unfortunately, have moved all over the place, and I'm finally settled, hopefully, in a place that I really like. So that was like that was the source of instability in our relationship, was honestly where I was living and moving from place to place and uprooting myself. So he has been a source of stability while I've been finding my footing, which, thank God, he's been willing and a support for that. There are things we don't share our values on, though, and I discovered as I was defining and leaning into my belief system, our friendship was starting to end anyway. Our marriage was on the rocks to begin with, and then my awakening to my queer identity just added to that. We were on our way out, regardless. But yeah, that just making sure that we agree that we are each other's family because we have kids. Even if he gets married again and decides to have children with his future spouse, I'm still a part of his family because we have kids, and I would hope that whoever he chooses to spend the rest of his life with would accept that as well.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all that, guys. Just a quick of mine. It was because I actually don't share much about that. Also, me coming out as queer was almost 3 years after we had already separated. But the whole separation and divorce for us was really rocky. It's taken almost 4 years to get divorced. Like my actual finalized divorce doesn't go through. It's actually like 20 days, 15 days. It's the end of this month. And we've been split up for 4 years. So I think to him, it kind of, it felt like the cherry on top when I was like, oh, guess what? P.S. Because also it comes from a conservative background, and which, like you, Alora, our marriage fell apart for many reasons, and one big one was that we were realizing more and more that our values were just kind of completely split. We got married so young. I was 21 when we met, and I was 22, 23 when we got married, and him also. So we kind of grew up together and realized that, we are so different in so many key ways. So yeah, this was just an added one. So we do parent 50-50, but I would not call it co-parenting. I would just call it the fact that I grew up without a dad. And same. I'm very much of like, oh my goodness. So I'm very much like, my kid is going to have one. Like, I'm not going to take this away from her. Like,
that's why I chose this guy, was because I could tell he was going to be a really good dad. Yeah. Honestly, that was like, okay, someday when I have kids, this guy would make a really great dad. So
yeah, there you go. So that's kind of like my tidbit there. There's been so much chatting going on, which is awesome. And there's so much support of people like talking, and they're supporting each other, which is really awesome. I don't know if I saw any questions. Did you see any questions?
Not so much. I did see someone mention that they feel like an outsider or like a fraud because it says that because I didn't do it sooner, and I'm assuming that means
come out. Yes, I saw sooner. That. Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, or I shouldn't say a lot of people, but I've seen kind of the feelings of imposter syndrome come up a lot. And I know that, again, too, so my partner, Jen, she's been out her whole life. She's only been with women. So we have very different life experiences of what it's like to come out and how we were perceived by the people around us. When she came out in the 90s, it was a very different time than me coming out 3 years ago. So, but I think there's a lot of people who are late to the party that are trying to find their seat at the table and like, do I have a right to be here?
Yes,
And
you have a right to be here.
And absolutely, like there's I don't know. I guess it's just kind of curious to me because it's like there's nobody who can actually keep you out. Like
right. You exist. You exist. Therefore,
right.
You belong.
Right.
That's it.
This is a choose your own adventure. You choose how you identify. You choose the label that feels right to you. I know before you hopped on, Laura, Marina and I were talking about like, you know, Marina said queer feels better to her. I, you know, scream lesbian from the tops of the mountains. We don't have mountains
queer
in Florida,
until recently felt right to me too.
Yeah.
But then I realized after also, you know, interacting with the community a bit more and talking with more lesbians that no, I deserve the title of lesbian, right? And it feels better now, you know,
Yes.
and that feels, and there's another TikTok that I did that was kind of like, it's like being in a dressing room and trying on different outfits and figuring out what's fitting. And before you come out, it's like everybody's picking out an outfit for you and you have to figure out, and all of it's the wrong size. But once you get to pick out your own outfits, you really get to define what's right for you. And you can freaking change your outfit later on if you decide that this isn't your look anymore, you know?
Absolutely. We just got a comment from Coach Kristen and said, I struggle with that because I'm bi and married to a guy, but I date women. Complicated. And honestly, Kristen, I think like from one research report I was reading that the majority of queer women out there identify as bisexual or pansexual. So that's the thing is like so many of my friends, I was amazed when I came out how many people reached out to me and said, hey, I'm part of the community too. You just didn't know that because I'm married to a guy, but I'm bisexual or I'm pansexual or even asexual in some cases as well.
I feel like there's growing awareness around that within the community too, growing awareness and acceptance. I think it's also because a newer generation of queer folk are joining the community and they're like, queerness doesn't look just like this anymore. I thank God for Gen Z. That's all I have to say.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yes. I adore them so much. But yeah, I know there's a lot of bi women that I've talked to that said they really struggle with how they're perceived and how they're accepted within the community. And I know it's a very real thing. I don't want to minimize it all because there are definitely people who erase bi identity or try and exclude, like you're not gay enough, you're not queer enough. But again, like I said, there are so many people who like you are welcome at the table. You are another letter, just like anyone else in the acronym. So,
yeah, I think I still struggle. Yeah. And I still struggle. We were talking earlier, Laura, when we were doing the sound stuff, but like the word lesbian, right? I think if I attach like the meaning behind it for me, it's a little bit of imposter syndrome. I feel like, no, I don't think I should use that, right? Like because
of your past with men.
Exactly, because I've been with men, and lesbian means you've been with women your whole life, and it's kind of like, no, like I am attaching all those things to that.
No,
like
you're a survivor of comp het.
Jill, you have a thought. I see that.
Well, I was going to say, for what it's worth, Marina, though, and I consider my girlfriend to be a lesbian aficionado because she's been in this game a long time. She did confirm that I am quite very much a lesbian. So
what makes it that?
I don't know. She's like, wow, you're there. I was like, yes, I sure am. So I don't know if it's a matter of like, I'm so full and loving of that identity now. That is what feels right and true to me. And so I live it out loud.
I also think that people have like this invisible jury in their head that doesn't exist.
Mhm.
Oh, that's
Right?
my head for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and it could be because of TikTok, right? You've got comments from people and stuff like that. And you've got people that do police and gatekeep communities. But honestly, their opinion doesn't freaking matter. If you're who appointed them the gatekeeper, right? The other thing when it comes to lesbian, right, is there are people who technically would be bisexual if we were to just stick to attraction versus if you take desire into it is another story, right? So you've got people who are only attracted to women and they only desire women, right? So okay, that's a lesbian. But you also have people who are attracted mostly to women, occasionally feel attraction to men, but have no desire to be in any kind of relationship, romantic, sexual, whatever, with men. They're lesbians too. They're lesbians too. Just because there's attraction there, because I bet there are plenty of gold star lesbians, right, that have had some kind of like, if I were straight, I would do him type of moment, right?
Sure.
That's just a thing that happens, but there's no identity police.
No.
Telling you,
I love
hey, stop. You can't be a lesbian
kids.
now.
3 kids, 2 cats. Yeah, did you see that? She's like, I'm bi, attracted to men, but I don't like men. There you go.
I agree. I don't like the term gold star either. There are some people who like that term, and there are some people who see it as a judgment term, and it's just. I agree.
I don't even know what that term means.
Well, within
but they've only.
I feel like it's an older term too.
Yeah.
It's just basically if you've never been with a man.
Got it.
And yes, exactly. I do think it has a superiority thing, but there are some people who pride themselves in, and it's like it's not necessarily looking down on people who have been with men. It's just basically like, yep, that's what I am. I don't know. I did put air quotes around it because it's not a term that I'm really that comfortable with, but it is a kind of go-to quick term.
Right. And I absolutely agree with what Cole is saying here. At the same time, Laura, like it's just another word that we use to explain another categorization of people. And like, yes, maybe gold star is not the best term because it implies like that you've achieved something
They're
great.
The top tier, right?
Right. When at the same time, I almost like, I don't know, I guess it just kind of struck me as, I don't know, there was just kind of, I found humor in it, but not that, and obviously that's not a label that I use to identify myself, nor do I identify others. I just, like, you get a gold star. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
I think it's the radical feminist contingent as far as like proximity to men. There's that element. Yeah. That's like, you are demoted if you are based on your proximity to men, which that's a whole other chat we could have. But
we're not going to go there.
But again, it's like,
that is a topic that I do explore a lot, which is kind of like this. We are, as late in life lesbians, a bit marginalized within the lesbian community because of that attitude.
Well, and for me, I will say, and this is a total different route that we don't have to go into, but I just kind of want to throw in is that, so I'm Brazilian, so I have the brown attachment that goes with me, right? So when I joke around and I moved, I live in the suburbs of Boston, so it's kind of like, oh great, I'm like brown and queer. Like I got the 2 tags now. I've lived my entire life with the 1 label and the 1 tag, and I've figured out how to kind of navigate and swim through this my entire life. Now let's add another one on top of it. And then let's move to a suburbia area where I am probably the only gay and brown person, probably one the only gay or the only brown. So let's put those two
I would
together
love
on
to
my
have that
street.
conversation with you.
So it's just kind of like, and so whenever we come to all of these, labels of like gay, baby gay, gold star, blah, 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 I'm like, guys, I just figured out the brown one. Like, can we just pause and then let me just be with, my woman and be happy with it? And sure, I'll go with queer and gay. And it's just, that's what we're going with now.
But I think it's a big time of exploring language right now and people trying to figure out what language feels right with them and sits right with them and is most appropriate to describe the situation. And that's like how we kicked off this conversation, even talking about the term cisgender and how that's used so often now. And it's like, well, where was this word? Why did we never use this word before? Well, now we're having more of these conversations that even though it's not a new word, it's entered a lot more people's vocabulary because we need to have language to use to have these conversations. So,
Exactly, Cole. You're getting it there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're at the hour mark, and I want to be very cognizant of everyone's time. See, my ESL decided to kick in there. Did any other questions pop in or anything like that before, so we can address it? Is there like a final question, or I don't know if I saw anything.
I don't think so. I didn't see any come through.
Okay. Does anybody, do you guys, I'm trying to think, is there like a good end question here for us? Do we end on a positive note? Right? So are there any, funny stories. Are there any funny, of this whole coming out journey that you're just you always go back to, oh my gosh, either a funny date or a funny conversation? Let's end on that.
I'll go first.
I saw that, Alora.
Okay, so like I said, I've been moving a lot in the past couple of years. And my last move, I was going through all of my old photos. And, part of the coming out process and realization process is kind of taking a personal inventory of the signs back in the day that pointed to queerness, right?
Yes.
And I pulled out this photo of me and my graduate school roommate who we were everywhere together, right? It was Alora and this person, we would have had a merged name because that's how bonded we were. I pulled out this picture and it is of us kissing, full on kissing. And I remember that moment and thinking kind of how hot it was, but I was like, oh, we look so hot, right? As opposed to, because I was so dissociating myself from possibly being queer that it was no, this is freaking hot.
Because every woman does that. You were
right. Oh, and that was the other thing. I need to talk to you about that too. That's another funny story. And it was just you have photographic evidence right now.
Exhibit A.
We need to pin every time that you're questioning, oh, maybe I'm just not really a lesbian. Maybe, because you have those moments too, where you're like, am I really, is this just because I'm going through midlife, for example? No, honey, you've been gay for the past 20 years. You just didn't let yourself be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to just reshare the story that I shared yesterday of when I came out to my kids. My son was 6 years old. And one of the things I asked them when my ex and I were explaining that we were getting a divorce and why we were getting a divorce, I said, do you guys know what a lesbian is? And my son's response was, what's a Lego bin? And then all I wanted to say is well, Mama's going to Legoland and she ain't never coming back. But I didn't say that. Showed restraint. So anyways, but Lego bin is kind of my code word now when I'm gonna go hang out with my
go be a lesbian.
So,
go be gay.
Going to Legoland. See you later.
Nice.
My story, and I've it's probably one of my TikToks that is the most buzz on my page, and it was when I truly had I think it was right after I had therapy and had this realization and talked to the guy that I was dating like off and on, and he's like, that totally makes sense. And I was like, really? Like everybody knows this. And then I talking to my best friend, like my best girlfriend that I've known for, over a decade. And I finally like voiced it. I was like, for the first time, I was like, but don't you also want to kiss women? Like, asking my asking my friend. And she's like, no, I can appreciate the beauty, but I don't want to touch it. And I was like, oh, I want to touch it. That's the difference.
I feel like that should be a t-shirt.
Exactly. I want to touch it.
That's going to get somebody in trouble. Anyways.
True. But yeah. So thank you so much, guys. This was awesome. I think I'm going to keep doing these. So just keep looking for them. And then anytime, right? Like if you see that I'm on, you're always welcome to pop on and we can keep chatting. But I will be announcing when I do these because I've gotten so much stuff on my page today about how excited they were. Oh, and one thing, Alora, I will also, you can like let me know, but yesterday's panel conversation that we had, there were a lot of people that asked me if I was going to post it somewhere. So TikTok does, like I can download this and I will post it on YouTube if you are okay with that on my YouTube channel,
Totally.
which has only like 3 videos, but I have the channel. So I'll start posting these panels and I'll edit it out. So be there and I'll do all the tagging so you guys can like share it out too from everybody. So to people that are here, look out for when I post that on, I will announce it on my page when it's up on YouTube. Give me a few days because my work week is crazy right now. But that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Lovely
It was great
talking.
meeting you. And
Have a great rest of your night.
awesome.
You too.
Bye.